So, most of you know about my Dead Space Armageddon series that I've been recording, and I'm just going to say it right now. Somebody that I know convinced me to start doing these stories about my life. And I personally don't want to give away any physical descriptions of people or locations, so I'm going to try to keep them as vague as possible, mainly due to spamming stuff that I've been dealing with recently. So here are some stories about my life. This one was during a point in my life when I was interested in supernatural videos. And I want to clarify, when I say interested, I mean I was interested in poking fun at them because I genuinely have come to the conclusion that I don't believe in ghosts. And part of me still wants to believe that, but there was something in this story that kind of really confused me a little bit. Maybe it was just some weird coincidence or something, but essentially what happened was this one night I was home by myself, and me being me, decided to fiddle around with online apps that involved the supernatural, like ghost cameras or voice boxes, that type of deal. And at first, it seemed very silly. It seemed very fun because I kept poking holes in the fact that the camera must have obviously been putting images there because they were just generic dead people walking around, and the voice box could have just been, automatic responses because it was mostly like get out or leave me alone. And me being the idiot I was, decided to do a Ouija board app. And this is when it actually starts to get legitimately creepy, because I didn't know this when I first started this, but around the time when I started doing the Ouija app, it was around 3 a.m. And this at first starts out with me not believing anything it says, because it's like, when I ask if anyone's there, it says the typical yes. When I ask if it's a ghost, it says no. And when I ask if it can prove itself that it's real, it usually just kept saying go away. And I decided to get cocky. This is when it actually starts to get a little bit unnerving for me, because I say, like, you can't prove it because you're not real. And then it kept saying go away, and I'm like, yeah, you ain't gonna prove it because you're just a stupid app. And the living room, one of the living room lights, specifically next to the stairwell, starts flickering right when I say that. And I get a little unnerved because there's no thunderstorm happening. And it never did that, like, prior to me doing this. So I legit started to get freaked out. And me now all of a sudden, like, taking this seriously, I'm like, okay, I'm sorry about that. And I close out communications and I uninstalled the app right away. And it's right around this point when at first I'm thinking, that had to have been some sort of electrical thing. Like, there's no way it was a ghost. And plus, it's not even like it was, like, anywhere near any supernatural period. So there's no way. And then I look at the time. It's like 3:20 a.m. And I know that I started it around 10 minutes prior to saying this. So at the very least, I was doing this at 3:10. And me knowing what time period that is, I eventually just decide to not screw around with this stuff anymore. But yeah, that was the time I stupidly contacted ghosts. Anyways, on to the next story. So this one kind of starts out where I work at a store. I won't say what store. Okay. But I will say that the whole point of it is that there are people that work in the back, work in the front, And then some days there are certain people that work in between. Today I was one of those people, and I'm rolling stuff out there, and this person up front, sitting in a chair that we had, asked me if I work here. I respond with yes, though I will admit I typically try to get through a rolling session without encountering people, because I don't like talking to people that much. Anyways, I go up to him, and he starts mentioning that he's stranded. I'm absolutely confused and dumbfounded, and my brain must be short-circuiting because immediately he starts explaining that a random guy bought him some coffee at a Dollar Tree. I don't really remember what the store was called. It might have been Dollar General for all I know. But anyways, he starts talking about this coffee. And to clarify, I walked up to him thinking that he was going to ask me for a specific section on where to find pots or pans or clothing, because he had a shopping cart with a bag in it that I assumed he got from the store. But for him to randomly dump on me saying that he was stranded, all I was thinking in that moment was a combination of thoughts between, does he need a phone call? Is he actually stranded, or is he trying to get me to help him in some way? And what the heck I'm supposed to do about this? And then he gets up to the water bit, and all I'm thinking in my head is a combination of, yeah, I mean, technically we do have hot water, but we're not allowed to give it out, I guess. I don't know. I didn't really know what to think, because again, this was just some random guy talking about hot water. This does end on a slightly good note, I guess, because eventually he must come to the conclusion by watching my facial reactions that he can obviously get the hot water from somewhere else. He basically talks about other stores that would probably be more willing to give hot water. He tells me thank you and sorry for bothering me, and then I respond by saying, have a good one. Deep down, though, I hope the guy genuinely wasn't stranded and that this was just some weird prank or something, because I genuinely don't like to think that people are in trouble when they say they are, but I hope he wasn't. All I know is that this is like the third customer that has walked up to me and either done something really awkward or just asked a really bizarre question. But yeah, this was the tale on how I got asked if we had hot water for coffee. And what's really strange about this story is that all the people that I have met in that store that ask strange questions, 90% of the time they all look normal. And this guy was no different. Like, usually you get these stories where there's a person that looks ragged and wears weird outfits, that, you know, something that gives you the hint that they're not going to say anything rational. But almost everyone I've met looks like they're gonna ask a rational question. And like I said, this one was no different. He was sitting down next to a cart with a bag in his thing. I mean, I have had worse people run into me where I work, but this one was just so bizarre that I felt like it could go here. So this story begins pretty much similar to the last story, where I'm out rolling, and I swear this is the only time when weird stuff happens, but basically, me and this coworker, for the sake of the story, we'll call her Deb, because she kind of reminds me of one of my grandparents. We're out rolling. We're just having a typical roll where we occasionally crack jokes at each other. And then in comes this guy who walks out, arms stretched, and says, I challenge you both to a tickle fight, and I'll let you win. And me and her are just so confused. And I don't know if she noticed this about what I was doing, but I was actually looking around the room for cameras because I couldn't tell if
this was like kicked in the balls or something, you know, where somebody comes up to prank you or some random crap like that.
Yeah, okay.
But that's the feeling I got from this. And we're just standing there, and I look at her and I
Yeah,
see
okay.
her just as confused as me. She has her one of her eyebrows lifted up and her mouth wide open,
Yeah,
just
okay.
dumbfounded. And eventually, I guess the guy saw her expressions and was like, "I'm kidding. Obviously, don't need to take everything
Yeah,
so
okay.
seriously," and walks off. And me and her are still standing there for a couple of seconds after he's gone. And then we look at each other and we both just
Okay.
laugh out of both, I guess, hilarity and confusion. But yeah, that was basically it for the
Yeah,
most
okay.
part. Except for later when we found out that apparently the guy was asking to clean our bathrooms and
Yeah,
he'd
okay.
want money for it. And I don't understand why the
Yeah,
heck
okay.
anyone thought why why he even thought that anyone would say yes. You know? Because all
Yeah,
you
okay.
hear about this guy is that he challenges people to tickle fights, and then he goes instantly to, "Hey, let me clean your bathroom for money." But yeah, he's no longer there. I don't think we've seen him for quite a while. But yeah, that was
Yeah, okay.
basically another strange encounter for me, and that'll probably do it for this video. Um, Thank
Yeah,
you for
okay.
listening, and good night.